Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Scripps, Chair of the Michigan Public Service Commission. I call this meeting of the Commission to order on July 10, 2025 at 1:03 p.m. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chair Scripps,
Present.
Commissioner Peritick,
Present.
Commissioner Carrion,
Present.
Mr. Garrett, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Today's meeting is being held in person at the Commission's office at 7109 West Saginaw Highway in Lansing, Michigan. We are also hosting this meeting remotely using Microsoft Teams. Telephone relay service is available through the phone option. If you are participating via Microsoft Teams, you may also turn on the live captions by clicking on the More button at the top right of your Teams window, then clicking on Language and Speech from the drop-down menu, and finally clicking on Live Captions. As indicated in the notice for today's meeting, if we lose the remote connection, the Commission will not recess but will continue in person. The meeting will be recorded and available for future reference on the Commission's website. In addition, the Commissioners can receive comments via lara-mpsc-commissioners@michigan.gov. And for reference, this email is also included in today's meeting notice. We will have an opportunity for the public to make comments as provided in the agenda. A few notes about this: comments are limited to 3 minutes and one per person. If you would like to make verbal comments, you must do so in person or remotely through Microsoft Teams or by calling into the meeting by phone. For individuals attending in person and who want to make a verbal comment, you may fill out a comment card. They look like this, and they're available at the front table near the podium. For individuals participating remotely by Microsoft Teams and who want to make a verbal comment, you may click on the raise hand button at any time to be queued up for comment. For individuals participating remotely by phone and who want to make a verbal comment, you may press *5 at any time to be queued up for comment. Public commenters on both Microsoft Teams and on the phone are added to the same speaker queue and will be called upon in the order that they enter the speaker queue. So please do not lower your hand or press *5 again, or you'll be removed from the queue and lose your place in line. And finally, to minimize disruptions, attendees participating by Microsoft Teams or by phone will be muted until we reach the time for public comment. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda for today's meeting.
I move for the approval of the agenda for today's commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve today's agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The agenda is approved. The next item of business on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the June 12th, 2025 commission meeting.
I move for the approval of the minutes from the June 12th, 2025 commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the minutes from the June 12th, 2025 commission meeting. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The commission meeting minutes of June 12th, 2025 are approved. The next item of business on the agenda is the approval of the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda, and today the commission is assisted by Staff Attorney Corey Schmidt-Parker. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Good afternoon. Today's consent agenda consists of 4 communication matters, 6 electric matters, and 3 gas matters. Proposed orders and minute actions for these matters have been thoroughly vetted by the Commission's technical and legal staff and are ready for your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt-Parker. I move for the approval of the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote, and the orders and minute actions on the consent agenda are approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A1 is case number U17473, which involves a request filed by Consumers Energy Company for approval of the company's 2025 annual true-up adjustment to the current securitization charges in conformity with the December 6, 2013 order in this docket. 30 before you approves the request and accepts Consumers Energy Company's 2025 annual true-up adjustment.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-17473.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote, and the order in case number U-17473 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A2 is case number U20147, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion for certain regulated electric utilities to file distribution system plans and for other related uncontested matters. Staff member Taylor Becker will describe this order.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Taylor Becker, and I serve as the manager of the distribution planning section within the Commission's Energy Resources Division. Since 2018, large investor-owned utilities in Michigan have filed electric distribution system plans with several investor-owned utilities submitting first plan iterations in the recent or upcoming year. On September 26, 2024, the Commission issued an order in case number U-20147, sharing a distribution planning straw proposal developed by staff aimed to clarify and improve the distribution planning process moving forward. The September 26th order invited comments from interested parties responding to the staff straw proposal and protective order to be submitted by October 24th, 2024. Further, the order directed staff to convene a collaborative session to discuss comments filed in response to the straw proposal and ask staff to file a revised proposal within 30 days following the collaborative session. Several parties submitted comments responding to the staff straw proposal and proposed protective order consisting of DTE Electric, Consumers Energy, Indiana Michigan Power Company, Citizens Utility Board of Michigan, Michigan Electric and Gas Association, the Ecology Center, Environmental Law and Policy Center, Union of Concerned Scientists, Invoke Solar, Michigan Energy Innovation Business Council, and Advanced Energy United in Virtual Power Plant Partnership. Staff hosted a collaborative session on December 17th, 2024, which involved focused, in-depth discussions on the topics of pre-filing outreach, plan updates, safety incidents, street lighting, and resilience. Staff's revised proposal was filed on January 16th, 2025, following careful consideration to all comments and collaborative session discussions. The order before you adopts staff's January 16th proposal with modifications and establishes filing guidelines that are a product of successful collaboration amongst interested parties. Several key elements established include: 1, utility plan filings every 3 years on a staggered basis unless otherwise ordered by the Commission. 2, supplemental rate case filings permitting a means for a utility to communicate changes in investment strategy since the initial plan filing. 3, pre-filing outreach to engage interested parties before a plan is filed. 4, post-filing comment periods accepting initial comments within 90 days after the filing and reply comments within 30 days after the initial comment period. And 5, an outline that lays out a foundation for what should be included in initial plan filings. The order further adopts a protective order for use in distribution planning dockets, sets comment and reply comment dates for Alpena Power Company, Northern States Power Company, and Upper Peninsula Power Company plans, establishes future plan filing dates, and initiates the creation of a company-specific distribution planning docket. The order before you marks an important step as we work to improve the electric distribution system planning process and ultimately system performance and its ability to meet customer needs and expectations now and into the future. I would like to express my sincere thanks to all interested parties who provided comments in response to staff's proposals and participated in the collaborative session to help shape what is in today's order. Your input is valued and greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-20147.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would just like to start by thanking our staff, especially Anna Schiller for leading this effort, and also Paul Proudfoot, Taylor Becker, Kit Sabo, Lee Zagley, and Luke Denon for their hard work on these distribution planning requirements and for all the valuable input from the utilities and interested parties who offered suggestions and modifications and improvements. Planning for the future of our distribution system is crucial. There are a lot of changes happening that need to be appropriately considered. At the Commission, we've spent countless hours investigating the distribution system through multiple forums, through the third-party audit that was completed last year, the service quality rule modifications, rate case investments, transportation electrification planning, and many other rulemakings and proceedings. And these distribution plans are where all of this work really comes together, where the utilities must adapt to changes that are happening simultaneously, like the evolution of grid technologies, the changing climate and increasing impacts of severe storms, and the shift in the way that Michiganders are engaging with the grid and using electricity. This order that's before us ensures that the distribution system plans can keep up with this pace and scale of change. And these changes will require harmonization between distribution plans and rate case investments. They require frequent updates to hosting capacity maps. They require additional thought to go into the use of advanced metering infrastructure and how demand flexibility can contribute to reliability and affordability via a technical conference. They require additional granularity in planning and increased consideration of non-wires alternatives and distributed energy resources. The order also includes many other important modifications that will make our planning processes better. And I'm looking forward to getting these new filing requirements in place and be able to see the result in our next round of distribution plans that are submitted by our electric utilities.
Thank you, Commissioner Peritick. Is there any additional discussion?
Yes, Chair, thanks. The filing guidelines we're approving through today's order represent years' worth of engagement and careful evaluation of effective measures to improve our utility distribution systems. And that concerted effort at the Commission to ensure utilities deliver these improvements for reliability and resilience is evident not only in the framework itself for distribution system plans or DSPs, but as Commissioner Peritick alluded to, in the way the DSPs are meant to interact with rate cases, implementation of third-party audit results, transportation electrification plans, and even the very concepts of equity and environmental justice for utility customers. So first, my sincere thanks for staff's leadership in getting us to this point today, and to the many individuals and organizations who have provided thoughtful comments and proposals for Commission consideration over time. The guidelines we are approving are extremely comprehensive as a result of that robust engagement and input we received. And so I want to focus specifically on a couple of topics. First, I'll remark on how DSPs address issues of affordability and environmental justice in planning. As we note in the rate case improvement docket order that we'll be addressing later, the Commission intentionally aims to provide continuity between the DSP integrated resource plan, rate case improvement processes, and other related processes on issues of affordability and environmental justice. And furthermore, these topics are also relevant to discussions on financial incentive and disincentive reliability metrics, as well as the regression analyses described in rate case dockets for environmental justice, both of which offer avenues for examining progress in equity broadly. And within this docket, staff has proposed and the Commission approved customer affordability and environmental justice mapping analysis guidelines, such as projected customer rate impacts by customer class and a comparative analysis of reliability metrics against similarly situated non-EJ communities, plus percentages of populations participating in low-income energy assistance, shutoff protection plans, or related plans by census tract. And finally, I wish to acknowledge again, the years-long work and expertise of staff and my esteemed colleagues around improving grid modernization efforts through the inclusion of important considerations in these guidelines like interconnection processes, integration of distributed energy resources, non-wires alternatives, electrification of buildings and transportation, and appropriate data granularity, including the corresponding need for quarterly hosting capacity map updates starting this year for our two largest utilities, with encouragement for other utilities to develop their initial hosting capacity maps with regular updates. So DSPs designed in parallel and meant to intersect with other planning activities with equity and cost-effective implementation by utilities as core considerations will help improve our state's electric distribution system to a level of reliability performance that all customers deserve.
Thank you, Commissioner Carrion. And just a few additional comments from myself before we move to the vote. First, I agree strongly with the remarks provided by both of my comments. Looking back to where we started with distribution plans, went back to a pair of rate cases in 2017. And from the beginning, the core focus was really on reliability, the reliability of the distribution system and tackling some of the reliability challenges that we've seen. While issues of grid modernization or how to make full use of distributed energy resources would always come later. It was always outside the 5-year window of distribution plans at the beginning stages. Well, with this order, I'm happy to say that later has finally arrived. And I think the elements included in the order around hosting capacity maps, both what's included and the frequency of updates, the elements to be included in distribution plans, particularly around grid modernization and other ways to make full use of the distribution grid and to unlock the potential that distributed energy resources provide really is outlined in the requirements and guidelines contained in the order in front of us. So I appreciate the work, Mr. Becker, of you and your team, as noted by Commissioner Peritick, and echo the comments of Commissioner Carrion in talking about the years-long effort that this represents, as you noted, Mr. Becker, an important step in moving us forward. And with that, we'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-20147 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A3 is case number U21189, which involves an application filed by Indiana Michigan Power Company seeking ex parte approval of the amended and restated Montpelier Capacity Purchase Agreement. The order before you approves the application.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21189.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21189 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A4 is case number U21262, which involves an application filed by Indiana Michigan Power Company for reconciliation of its power supply cost recovery cost and revenues for the 12-month period ended December 31, 2023. The order before you approves the application as modified by the order.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21262.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21262 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A5 is case number U21361, which involves an application filed by DTE Electric Company seeking ex parte approval of an engineering, procurement, and construction master service agreement and master supply agreements for the Beecher Solar Project. The order before you approves the application.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21361.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21361 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A6 is case numbers U21471 et al., which involve applications filed by Michigan Electric Transmission Company, LLC, seeking the issuance of certificates of public convenience and necessity for the construction of major transmission lines under the Electric Transmission Line Certification Act, Public Act 30 of 1995. Staff member Stephanie Fitzgerald will describe this order.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The order before you makes a determination on the certificates for public convenience and necessity for two proposed major transmission lines. On July 15th, 2024, in docket numbers 21471 and U21472, Michigan Electric Transmission Company, LLC, or METSI, submitted applications for two proposed major transmission lines. The first is the Nelson to Oneida line, a 39.5-mile, 345 kV double-circuit transmission line to be constructed between Gratiot and Eaton County. The second is the Helix to Hipple line, a 55-mile, 345 kV double-circuit transmission line to be constructed from Calhoun County to the Indiana-Michigan border in Branch County, along with an accompanying new substation. Those dockets were consolidated into a single docket, U21471. The record in this case consists of testimony from 34 witnesses contained within 1,306 pages of public and confidential transcripts and 196 exhibits. The individuals and groups who are granted intervention include Clean Grid Alliance, Michigan Energy Innovation Business Council, the Institute for Energy Innovation, Citizens Utility Board, Sierra Club, the NAGS Intervenor Group, and the Nelson Oneida Intervenors, both composed of numerous affected landowners, Dawn and Robert Lust, and Rose and Robert Williams. These transmission siting applications are governed by Act 30 of 1995, which requires the Commission to approve an application when the quantifiable and non-quantifiable public benefits of the proposed line justify its construction, the proposed or alternate route is feasible and reasonable, the transmission line does not present an unreasonable threat to public health and safety, and the applicant has agreed to any conditions required by the Commission. As a preliminary matter, the order finds that METSI submitted a complete application, complied with statutory notice requirements, and adequately demonstrated need for the project. Regarding public benefits, the order finds that METSI's testimony, along with testimony from other interveners, established that the quantifiable and non-quantifiable benefits justify construction and that there is a need for both transmission lines. The order states that the lines are needed to address current and future transmission needs and that upgrading existing facilities alone is insufficient to meet those needs. The record demonstrates that both lines are needed to serve the state's growing need for energy reliability, capacity, and renewable energy integration. In addition to these findings on needs and benefits, the order states that the project will not present an unreasonable threat to public health and safety. Although the order states that the transmission lines will have an impact on environmental resources, the order finds that the project is permissible under the Michigan Environmental Protection Act as there is no feasible and prudent alternative. Regarding routing, the order before you includes the following determinations. First, regarding the Nelson to Oneida line, the order grants a certificate of public convenience and necessity for the alternate route. The alternate route has fewer heavy angles, road crossings, acres of wetlands within the right-of-way, and acres of hydric soils within the right-of-way when compared to the proposed route. Additionally, as the Nelson Oneida interveners pointed out, the alternate route better exhibits sound routing principles by utilizing the existing consumer's right-of-way. Second, regarding the Helix to Hipple line, the order grants a certificate of public convenience and necessity to the proposed route. The order acknowledges that the siting of transmission lines necessarily cause disruptions to land uses and entail balancing trade-offs between competing land uses. While the alternate route would avoid impacts to the R&R Ranch Airport, it would also result in increased social impacts, namely increased archaeological sites within the right-of-way, increased residences within 500 feet of the right-of-way, and increased parcels crossed. The order acknowledges that interveners and staff presented additional route alternatives. Although Act 30 empowers the Commission to choose an alternative presented by an intervener, in this case, that would involve impacting landowners who have not been directly noticed by METC. Finally, the order includes the following provisions. The order conditions approval on METC's agreement to investigate every landowner noise complaint, provide contact information to landowners, file monthly memos in the docket summarizing landowner, minor route refinement requests, along with how METC accommodated the request or why it was unable to do so. The order also references the concurrently issued order in case number U21930 that directs staff to work with interested persons on filing guidelines for future applications submitted under Act 30 and notes the Commission's intention to initiate rulemaking to codify, among other things, the information to be included in future Act 30 applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. I move for the approval of the order in case numbers U-21471 et al.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We at the Michigan Public Service Commission are a creature of statute. That means that we need to abide by the laws that are set by the legislature. In an electric transmission siting case like this one, it's our job to ensure that the planned transmission line meets the requirements of the relevant statutes and regulations. In this case, that's MCL 460.561 through .575, or what we refer to as Act 30, which requires the Commission to approve a line if the company meets the bar set by statute. These transmission lines are indeed needed infrastructure. We will, in fact, benefit from these lines, and they will improve reliability, accessibility, and bring benefits that exceed costs to electric customers in Michigan. But in my opinion, Act 30 alone sets the bar much too low for transmission companies and does not give landowners adequate opportunity for shaping the outcome. I will tell you why I think that, and then what we at the Commission will be doing about it. Act 30 outlines the requirements for the transmission siting application and the requirements for routing. With regard to public input, it requires the applicant to hold a public meeting in each affected municipality before the application is submitted, as well as offer to meet with local officials, to summarize all comments received at each public meeting and the applicant's response to those comments, to publish notice in a newspaper in each affected area, as well as send notice directly to each affected municipality and landowner across whose land transmission lines would be built. Notably, the statute only requires official notice to landowners directly on the route put forward by the company in its application. This leaves out official notice to anyone adjacent to the route or in the general study area where interveners may propose alternative routes that they recommend the company to take. While Act 30 theoretically allows the Commission to approve one of these intervener proposed alternative routes, that would mean that we would be approving a route that would be on the land of people who were never officially even notified of the potential transmission line that could be built through their property. I cannot in good conscience approve a transmission line to be built on someone's property that was never even given the chance to argue their side of the case. So that means then that the only routes that I could in good conscience approve are on the property of noticed landowners, which limits my choices to either the proposed routes or alternate routes presented by METSI, which is why in the approval before us now, as described by Ms. Fitzgerald, is for the proposed route for the Helix Hippo line and the alternate route for the Nelson Oneida line. That's the first problem with the statute. The second problem is the shockingly low bar for landowner public engagement. Construction of a major transmission line is disruptive and can ultimately alter the aesthetics and practical use of a property. The dismissive way that METSI treated landowners in the study area is completely unacceptable and does not give proper weight to the impacts of a new transmission line on local landowners and residents. However, because Act 30 sets an incredibly low bar for public engagement, METSI has barely cleared it. Ultimately, the statute requires the commission to approve the transmission line if it is reasonable and feasible. It doesn't have to be the best route, the least harmful route, the smartest route, or the most socially responsible route. It's true that long-range transmission is desperately needed in our region for the public good, but landowners who are most impacted by the construction of these lines deserve better. Now, I told you I was going to describe what we are going to do about this to address the shortcomings in our legal framework. As regulators, we have the ability to flesh out a statute by developing and issuing rules in a formal rulemaking process to make this law work better for the people of Michigan. So in a separate order that we will be issuing soon, we will be kicking off a process to establish required rules that any applicant must follow to improve public engagement and involvement in transmission siting cases, and to find a solution to ensure that the commission can meaningfully consider additional routes. But formal rulemakings do take time. To ensure that the next transmission siting application that we receive will not be marred by the same deficiencies as this one, our staff will immediately begin developing additional, more stringent, and more fair filing guidelines for Act 30 cases in the interim. These guidelines will address, at a minimum, the amount of overlap that's considered reasonable between an alternate route and a proposed route, the degree that private benefits need to be estimated in advance of a submitted as part of the summary of comments received at each of the public meetings, and the applicant's response to those comments, the methodology and qualitative factors that should be used in route studies to form the basis for the applicant's selection of the proposed and alternate routes, including the standardization of data presented to enable the staff to efficiently analyze the routes, requirements for documenting all landowner requests for minor modifications to a proposed or alternate route, what action was taken by the applicant in response to the request, and the reasoning why the applicant accommodated or failed to accommodate the request, and any other issue that staff or interested parties believe are necessary to approve the application process under Act 30. By taking these measures, I'm confident that in future Act 30 siting cases, we will have a better framework in place that will result in a better application from transmission companies with substantially improved public input and engagement. As for the case before us, though, I believe it would be generous to cause METSI's public engagement lackluster. We've heard from impacted parties that METSI refused to answer simple questions, ignored glaringly obvious routing problems, like an airport, in the path of the transmission line, and took the easy, lazy path for the siting of the route in every place possible. All of this is even more egregious in the context that METSI is a well-resourced corporation that has the ability and the means to do better. Yet the statute governing our siting process compels us to approve the lines because METSI has cleared that very low bar. Therefore, I'm required to approve this application, despite the fact that I believe that METSI has shown blatant disregard for the interests of landowners who will be impacted by this infrastructure that serves the needs of the state.
Thank you, Commissioner Peretick. Is there additional discussion?
Yes, thanks, Chair. And what I'm about to share, my remarks will largely echo what Commissioner Peretick has already shared and the same sentiment, but I think that just goes to show the opportunity before us to make things much better. I'd like to begin by thanking staff for their rigorous analysis in this case. There were virtually hundreds of route options and combinations to rank, and staff thoughtfully assessed these options against social, environmental, and engineering factors to propose route recommendations to the record. And I also want to thank the members of the public and affected landowners and families who engaged in this process. Your dedication has been truly impressive. Regarding today's order, I'd like to start with a brief recap of the requirements again for an independent transmission company seeking to construct a major transmission line under Act 30. And my recap is brief, not because I have had to summarize any lengthy requirements, but rather because the requirements themselves under this law are limited. These requirements are to submit a construction plan and any additional information the commission requires before applying for a certificate, to hold a public meeting in each affected municipality and offering to meet with the chief elected official at least 60 days in advance, to submit an application with the proposed route and at least one alternative or alternate, to provide public notice through newspaper publication and direct notification to affected municipalities and landowners, and to undergo a contested case proceeding with the commission granting or denying the application within a year of filing. And again, specifically, the commission must either grant the application for the company's proposed alternate or one of the proposed alternative routes, or deny the application. And so this describes the application filing and decision-making process. That's the brief recap. As for the criteria under the law that the commission must evaluate to grant an application and issue a certificate, as Ms. Fitzgerald noted in her presentation, the criteria are that the public benefits of the project justify construction, the proposed or alternate route is feasible and reasonable, the line doesn't pose an unreasonable risk to public health and safety, and the applicant has accepted conditions in a conditional grant. And then those are all the criteria. Again, to bring greater clarity, efficiency, and transparency to this process, the order references another forthcoming order that we'll be addressing later today in case number U-21930 that both Ms. Fitzgerald and Commissioner Peretick described, which directs staff to work with interested parties to develop voluntary filing guidelines for Act 30 applications. And I especially want to highlight two aspects of those directed filing guidelines that are designed to ensure future applications reflect appropriate and meaningful engagement with the public and affected landowners. First, addressing the form and quality of how comments from public meetings are summarized and how applicants respond to those comments versus a nominal list. And second, requiring documentation of all landowner requests for minor route changes, including the applicant's response and rationale for accepting or rejecting them. And additionally, as mentioned, the commission intends to initiate a rulemaking to codify these requirements in future applications. And because these guidelines and rules are not yet in place, today's order includes specific conditions to ensure landowner concerns, in this case, continue to be addressed. And we've discussed these, including the same documentation of landowner requested minor route modifications. And to conclude, I do want to address the role specifically of public comment in contested cases such as this case, which is distinct from the participation of those individuals and families who formally intervened in the case. The public participation improvement docket order on our agenda today elaborates on the role of public comment, but I think it's worth emphasizing here too. Although many individuals submitted comments throughout this proceeding, those comments do not form part of the official record and therefore cannot be used as a basis for our decision. However, the upcoming rulemaking will serve as a critical channel for the public to help shape future Act 30 applications and outcomes. And I invite anyone interested in influencing these outcomes to please participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carrion. And just a few notes from me as well before we move to the vote. First, I don't want it to be lost that these are critically important lines. Indeed, these are the first high voltage transmission lines approved by the Commission in more than a decade. They're the largest to be approved by the Commission since the Thumb Loop projects back in February of 2011. So these are significant, and they play an important role in a number of critical priorities to the Commission and indeed to the state, including the backbone transmission that is central to reliability, an increase in the ability to import capacity and energy from other states, which was one of the key findings of our 2019 statewide energy assessment, something that we've been working on at the Commission for a number of years, and also access to lower cost resources outside the state of Michigan that can have an impact on customer bills. So these are critically important lines, and I want to make sure that we underscore the importance of the infrastructure that's being approved today to our energy future. In terms of the routes, I want to just add a couple of thoughts. So on the Nelson Road to Oneida, as Ms. Fitzgerald noted, ultimately the route that was approved is the alternate route, and the basis of the approval is that alternate route was able to use a significant amount of existing utility infrastructure right of way. And for the Commission, it really came down to an issue of fairness, that those who were within the right of way have either long been aware that the infrastructure development was possible on their property, or they purchased the land with the easement already in place. And so that sort of advanced knowledge played a critical role in our decision and a finding that it was unreasonable to ignore existing right of way in citing these lines. I'll just be candid that the Helix to Hippo route was a tougher case. We're well aware of the impact to the airport, the existing active airport that is on the line. And ultimately, it was a question of whether that route was reasonable and prudent, whether the alternative route was reasonable and prudent, or whether no route was reasonable and prudent. And ultimately, we relied on staff's analysis, finding that the proposed route was, even with the airport, scored the highest among the factors that were looked at, and the impact to others on the alternate route, including the significant increase in homes that would be brought within 500 feet of the infrastructure, in making our finding that the proposed route was the reasonable and prudent route. And finally, I want to just speak on landowner engagement because I share the critiques made by my colleagues. Too often in this, well, when citing these, even with infrastructure that's as necessary as this is, I think we need to be cognizant and respectful of the fact that the approval carries significant consequences, not least of which the impact to private property of those along the route, many of whom have owned their properties and farms for decades and even generations, working to own and steward that land for future generations. And yet we saw what might be best deemed a cavalier approach to how landowners were engaged around the use of their private property. Landowners deserve greater respect than what was seen in this case, including the dismally low level of successfully negotiated easements where condemnation was not used as a necessary backstop in extreme cases, but seemed to be the default means of engagement with landowners around their private property. The single email that was sent from the company to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources that resulted in the condemnation of 16 additional private parcels that are being included in the route for Nelson to Oneida Road, the pro forma summaries of comments from individual landowners seeking to explore minor route modifications with no clarity on whether any action at all was taken as a result of the inquiries from these landowners on the use of, again, their private property, and then, of course, the condemnation of the active airport. So my hope is that even as I'm pleased to see these critical projects move forward, I would implore the company to do a better job, a much better job of public engagement in future applications. And with that, we will move to the vote on the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case numbers U-21471 et al. Is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A7 is case number U21538, which involves a request for temporary waivers from the requirement of filing a transportation electrification plan filed by Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation, Northern States Power Company, and Alpena Power Company. The order before you approves the temporary waivers as described in the order.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21538.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21538 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A8 is case number U21547, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion to open a docket to implement the provisions of Public Act 233 of 2023. The order before you waives the collection of certain fees assessed pursuant to the Commission's application filing instructions and procedures, which were adopted in the Commission's October 10th, 2024 order in this case, as corrected by the October 21, 2024 errata, and are applicable to applications submitted to the Commission pursuant to Public Act 233 of 2023.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21547.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21547 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A9 is case number U21637, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion to investigate opportunities for improving the process by which the Commission reviews rate case applications. The order before you provides guidance and seeks comment on additional issues.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21637.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, thanks, Chair. As indicated by Ms. Schmidt-Parker, this order investigates opportunities for improving rate case processes under Public Act 231 of 2023. I thank all the commenters who answered the 9 questions we posed, and importantly, the numerous parties who intervene and support the decision-making process for every utility rate case in this state. As a matter of context and example, DT Electric's 2023 rate case involved 69 parties, 85 witnesses, and over 4,000 pages of testimony. It's news to no one here how involved and complex the rate case review and decision-making process is and how impactful it can be, ranking among the most crucial proceedings the Commission can conduct. Recognizing the role of the rate case and the directives resulting from today's order, I wanted to emphasize the Commission's request for comments today on bill impacts. As described in the order, the Commission agrees with commenters who noted that environmental justice and affordability are indeed not tangential to rate making. The focus on affordability and environmental justice occurs in multiple places across Commission proceedings, including the distribution system planning docket we already addressed, and in integrated resource planning with new criteria around affordability analyses also under Public Act 231 of 2023. The Commission acknowledges that EJ and equity issues are not statutorily required to be heard in rate cases, but finds that they are closely tied to an analysis of reasonableness and prudence. The Commission does not find that these issues should be moved to a separate proceeding, but rather encourages the recent practice displayed by some utilities of tying capital investments to impacts related to environmental justice. In a related fashion, the Commission recognizes that data on bill impacts are critical to the rate setting process and should be provided by the filing utility. Considering the link between affordability and resulting impacts on customer bills stemming from the rate case process, today's order seeks comment on how bill impact assessments should be provided to customers as part of the rate case process. I highly encourage those parties who commented on affordability, EJ, and bill impact issues from this docket, as well as the many other organizations, individuals, and interested parties who seek to find ways to tie customer bills to a broad customer base to provide input and help shape the future of measuring and disclosing bill impacts, especially for our most vulnerable customers, as we strive to ensure the delivery of more just and equitable energy services.
Thank you, Commissioner Carrion. Is there any additional discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21637 is approved. Recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A10 is case number U21638, which involves a matter on the Commission's own motion to hold a hearing pursuant to the directives of Public Act 231 of 2023 to take comments regarding additional improvements the Commission may make for communicating with the public and explaining Commission activities, expanding accessibility and participation, and enhancing the transparency of Commission proceedings. The order before you orders the Commission's participation and engagement framework to be updated periodically as necessary and closes the docket in this case.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21638.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Okay, thanks. I have lots of people to thank today. I wanted to express my thanks to all the commenters who contributed to this docket too, including the attendees who joined us for and the staff who ensured the success of our town hall meeting in Detroit on enhancing public participation and engagement on May 29th. The event was also significant given the representation from the Utility Consumer Participation Board, or UCPB, and the Attorney General, or AG's office. The UCPB and AG's office presentations at the town hall meeting offered different perspectives and insights on what it means to engage in Commission proceedings, especially on behalf of the public and utility customers. We will soon be posting our public participation framework on our website and intend to treat this framework as an evolving or living document. So we very much want to maintain an open feedback loop between the public and our framework. One area of ongoing inquiry to the Commission and discussed within this order is the role of public comment. In this order, the Commission encourages parties intervening in contested cases to review public comments, to use the comments where appropriate to inform discovery requests and testimony. The Commission plans to make it easier for members of the public to identify and connect with interveners in contested cases of significant public interest and to identify and publicize opportunities for meaningful public comment in these cases, consistent with the goal of informing discovery requests and testimony as relevant in our case schedules. One channel the public can increasingly expect to lean on for more information and engagement with Commission activities is through our new Community Partner Network, or CPN, which, as the name implies, is a network of community partners with whom the Commission will newly or continue building relationships across all areas of the state to better understand and develop opportunities for community engagement and outreach. One of the objectives of this proceeding under Public Act 231 of 2023 was to consider options for participation opportunities in the Commission's decision-making processes, especially by low-income residential customers that experience high energy burdens, and individuals and communities impacted by Commission decisions. I submit that CPN will be an important way for customers and community members experiencing high energy burdens to engage with the Commission through our community partners. And I want to conclude my remarks here by sharing our inaugural guiding principles in our efforts to expand public participation opportunities as we document in the order, which we've established as a result of past work across multiple work groups at the Commission, community input and comments in this docket and other dockets. And the guiding principles include building and maintaining trust with persons and organizations with whom the Commission engages and those who participate in the Commission's processes, ensuring transparency and increasing Commission visibility and access. For those interested in staying involved in this work, I encourage you to visit our website to learn more, and we'll be sure to announce when the framework is available.
Thank you, Commissioner Carrion. Is there any additional discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would also just like to thank all of the organizations and members of the public who submitted comments as part of this docket and showed up in person at our public hearing in late May in Detroit that Commissioner Carrion just referenced to talk to us directly about how we can do better. Both the quality and the volume of comments are evidence that Michiganders care deeply about the work that we're doing here at the Commission and that they're willing to give up their own time to show up and make the process better. I've been impressed and heartened by the interest showed in our work and thankful to all of you who care so much about making sure that our decisions are in the best interest of Michiganders. While we weren't able to implement each of the comments received as part of this docket, I did read each of them, and we were able to make some changes to our process as a result. One challenge that we've been grappling with is that our laws prohibit the Commission from considering public comments as evidence in contested cases, and that was just highlighted in our recent decision in the Metzi case as well. This evidence that we are allowed to consider is limited to what is submitted by parties or interveners to a case. And in my small group conversation in Detroit at our public town hall, some excellent ideas were raised on how to make voices heard during the contested case process, despite this limitation. In the order before us now, we're proposing improvements on how to better communicate about cases that we know will be important to a particular community. Our goal is that early communication will make it easier for members of the public to connect with interveners in those cases and allow for engagement in the case through that connection. This order also encourages parties in contested cases to review public comments and use those comments, if appropriate, to inform discovery requests and testimony. Also informed by this feedback, we're in the process of finalizing a framework to govern the MPSC's public participation efforts, which will be published on our website and updated periodically based on lessons learned and input received from community-based organizations and other members of the public, which Commissioner Carrion just described. And another thing we've kicked off in response to increased public interest that I'm particularly excited about, as well as Commissioner Carrion just described, is our Community Partner Network, which is a network that our communications team, particularly Rika Holly-Velker, Jennifer Brooks, Brandy Quinn, and Steve Kimbrell, are establishing so that we can have an extended regular point of contact with trusted organizations that are already embedded in their communities. And the goal of this network is to be able to get informal input and feedback and have open lines of two-way communication and ultimately be able to better serve the public. Our new public outreach website will be live shortly, and I hope you'll notice how your input through this docket has shaped the way that we're now working. If you would like to get in touch with a member of our public outreach team or have an organization that you would like to be part of the Community Partner Network, please reach out to lara.mpsc-external-affairs@michigan.gov.
Thank you, Commissioner Paratek. And I know that those comments will be reflected in the minutes at the
They will.
next meeting. So that email address will be there as well. We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote, and the order in case number U-21638 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4A11 is case number U21930, which involves on the Commission's own motion, the commencement of a proceeding to implement filing guidelines for applications submitted under Public Act 30 of 1995 as amended. The order before you directs the commission staff to develop voluntary application filing guidelines to be used by applicants submitting applications to the commission pursuant to Public Act 30 of 1995 and to follow these draft application filing guidelines in this docket. The order also establishes a comment period for interested persons to file comments regarding the commission staff's draft application filing guidelines.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21930.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We'll now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21930 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4B1 is case number U16230, which involves a motion filed by Riverside Energy Michigan LLC to amend the reporting requirements for wells, pools, or fields that operate under vacuum in the Antrim Shale Formation. The order before you grants the motion and approves the proposed amendment.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-16230.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-16230 is approved. Recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4B2 is case number U21622, which involves a formal complaint as amended filed by Mark and Susan Adams against Consumers Energy Company. The order before you dismisses the complaint as amended with prejudice.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21622.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21622 is approved. I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4B3 is case number U21835, which involves an application filed by Consumers Energy Company for ex parte approval to construct and operate a new proposed C1103 well line in Winterfield Township, Clare County, Michigan. The order before you approves the application and makes required agency findings regarding the project's environmental impact.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21835.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21835 is approved. And I recognize Ms. Schmidt-Parker.
Item 4B4 is case number U21917, which involves an application filed by DTE Gas Company seeking ex parte authorization to defer amounts for services provided by DTM Michigan Lateral Company related to the Traverse City Alpena Reinforcement Project and to record a regulatory asset in account 182.3. The order before you approves the application.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt-Parker. I move for the approval of the order in case number U-21917.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? We will now have a vote on the motion to approve the order. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries by a unanimous vote. The order in case number U-21917 is approved. We've now reached the time reserved for members of the public to address the commission. As mentioned in the notice for today's meeting, we will take public comments in the following order. First, from individuals attending in person, and then from individuals participating remotely, either through Microsoft Teams or the phone, who have entered the speaker queue. As a reminder, this public comment period is for commissioners to listen to comments and concerns, not to answer specific questions. When providing comment, please do indicate your name and where you live if you're willing to share. And again, please limit comments to one per person and keep them brief, no longer than 3 minutes, so we have a chance to hear from all who would like to comment. First up, we have Robert Williams.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Robert Williams. I am the owner of 18MI R&R Ranch Airport. This has been a true learning experience. I've never had my reputation impugned or my character challenged as this case has brought forth. I had a lot of things I'll tell you about, but instead of that, some of the things that were brought forth is that the airport is in violation of state, federal, and local regulations. I have talked to the FAA and been to the Michigan Aeronautics Board. No, the airport does not violate any regulations at this time. It's never had a flight school. It's never had any commercial business. It's never received in 33 years, 1 penny of profit or income from the airport. METC brought forth, they did not want the alternate line versus the proposed line for the Helix Tipple. I've got to admit that that's a good choice as the proposed line versus the alternate. The alternate's a lot longer mileage. It has a lot more row required. The proposed actually makes more sense in that respect. Now, from a cost savings point of view, the staff of the Service Commission in their last brief recommended inserting the PR Prime. The PR Prime actually has less mileage, less row required. It does bring forth, they brought forth that it has 3 different parcels. They didn't want to have to go through the hassle. Well, it's my neighbors, the farmers. Actually, 2 of them are the same owners. It's just farmers own a lot of different parcels. So 2 of them are already notified as landowners. So that really isn't true. There are not 3 different people. It's the 3rd one. I wasn't sure where that went, so I don't know about that one. What I do not understand is in the last brief that was put forth by the Service Commission, the staff recommended the commission make the decision with PR Prime inserted, which makes a whole lot more sense from a business point of view, financial point of view, environmental, safety concerns. That's all I can say. I don't understand why that wouldn't have been inserted, since the lady up here actually did say that they can make changes to it and that with the Act 30 requires them to follow the changes. What I don't understand is why they would want to not have a shorter route with less mileage. I mean, that's got to be a lot of money per miles. So anyway, that I do not understand. So at this point, by condemning the airport, which is what they'll have to do to get their easement, they're not condemning the slight amount of acreage to go across it. They're actually condemning 24 acres of airport. By definition, all 24 acres is airport property. So cost wise, I think that might be a little more than it would have been to save a little money using the PR Prime. If they have that option still and they'd like to do it, that'd be great. There's one other option that was never brought forth to the board. I brought forth in the last public comment, which doesn't make any difference, but you can bury transmission lines. If they'd like to bury them underneath the airport, that would not affect the safety of anybody involved also. I know it's a little more expensive, but there's absolutely almost 0 maintenance on buried transmission lines. And they can bury those. Burns McDonald, their consulting firm, does show buried lines up to 720,000 volts. So that's another option that was not brought forth. So anyway, I just wanted to say, my reputation, I've done a lot of things that I was going to talk about. They're going to have a hard time impugning my reputation other than on paper. And several other segments were completely incorrect, which was brought forth in the last brief that I put in. So a little disappointed that it was not included in the route. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Dr. Judy Sikarsky, sorry.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Firstly, I would like to state that I intended to express my sincere appreciation, and that of the behalf of my friends, of the time and effort it required for the commission to consider all the multiple factors included on making this decision. We know it was not an easy decision. I thought that your decision was going to be announced at the end of the meeting, so I just want to kind of add a little credibility that I was going to say all of these things before we heard the decision. And of course, we are happy with the decision. Thank you. We've always been aware that the alternate row would affect other people, such as the gentleman in the first row. We've always been aware of that, and it's a tough decision on everyone's part. There is many factors: the environmental factor, the economics, the family heritage farms and such. So we really appreciate you hearing our voice on this matter. I would also like to express appreciation for the very thoughtful and articulate discussion that all of you have had following the announcement of the decision, because we agree heartily that a public voice, avenues for public voice are very, very important. And so that was very much appreciated, just because we knew that you've taken that in consideration. There's a lot of people who were unaware of the proposed and alternate lines and weren't able to propose, to voice their concerns. And so we think that that's very reasonable, and it takes the Michigan public into great consideration as far as expressing their concerns. We appreciate the explanation as far as the already established what it's called, the right of ways and such, because that does make perfect sense. But again, I want to state that I was going to express our sincere appreciation before the decision. And now I want to express our sincere appreciation for the decision. God bless you all.
Are there others who are here in person who would like to provide public comment at this time? Sanborn?
Yeah. I'm here regarding U 21471, Carol Sanborn, Lebanon Township. If I'm understanding it right, you're still gonna blast through our backyard, correct? Or did I not understand it right? I don't know how any one of you can sleep at night. My family's due process rights are being violated. Everyone on that route, from my neighbor Celine Har's house all the way up to Carson, are being violated. And my family in particular has been kicked to the curb before, so we will survive, but it's not right. And I'm here to say it's not right. And I guess I'll just close with damned you all and damn to Metsi. It's not right. You should have canceled the project and taken the time to notify what few landowners there are going through state land. This is ridiculous. This never should have happened. So I hope you can't sleep at night.
Are there others who would like to provide public comment?
My name's Avery Sanborn. I'm also a Clinton County resident. I live in Lebanon Township. That's I guess I have a couple things to say about this. There's, to my understanding, viewing the Clinton County property records, there are only about 6 or 7 new notifications that would have had to been sent to notify those people that would have been affected had Metsi been forced to pursue land, which is, it's something that's completely attainable. As I've spoke to during the previous meeting, this is really just, and just the fact that it's not a true alternative. The alternative route or alternate route, it's not alternate. There's roughly 10 or 12 miles where the landowners on the north side of this line did not have a choice in this. I don't think that's right. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that, but it's just disgusting in my opinion. And it really is just, I believe the commission, you know, I respect the work you put into this. And I think using the alternate route is, you know, partially acceptable, but I don't think it's acceptable that, like I said, those landowners on the north side, they didn't have a choice. So really, when you think about it, with the way things are now, any trans and have the alternate and the proposed route have the same, have the same route for both of those routes for a portion of that project. So really, these companies, these transmission companies can go anywhere and, as long as they have all the other requirements filled, required for these kind of projects, they can really screw anybody over. And I feel like, my family's legacy is really being shit on, to use a nice word. Thank you.
There are additional comments. Doesn't look
Yeah.
like, oh, we do.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have. Rose Williams, I see your name on the.
I'm muted.
There you go. We can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, let me just say, when I first started coming to your meetings, because I never had to the whole history of my life of being a Michigander, okay? I really had confidence in you because your job is to serve the Michiganian people, correct? And I can't understand why I sat here watching this on video and heard the one gal say that the Act 30 is so weak and that this is the biggest project that you let happen in how many years? It was over a decade, right? But because this project is so huge and Act 30 is so weak, I can't understand why you would let this project go through and then say, but for any application that comes after this, that you'll make it stronger. I don't understand why you just didn't put a pause on it because you're saying that we need these lines. I don't understand why we need these lines, first of all. I've done a lot of information studying on this and I don't get that at all. So I don't understand how you can actually come back and say, yes, we're gonna let this pass, but yet we're gonna make it difficult for the next person that comes through with an application. Why didn't you just put this on hold? Because my whole thing is when I first found out about this whole transmission project, because I went to a meeting, they said that they would do anything in their power to help everybody on the route out. They haven't even conversed with us at all. Not whatsoever. They haven't done anything to make it better. And like my husband said in the meeting, Mr. Robert Williams said that they can go underground, and totally miss our airport. I don't know why that wasn't even suggested by the three of you. So it really, I have to tell you, thank you for your service, but you all make me sick. That's all I have to say. Unless you'd like to comment back to me.
No, thank you, ma'am. All right, well, that will conclude the public comment period of the meeting. Please note that the public may continue to submit comments to the commissioners via email at lara.mpsc-commissioners@michigan.gov. I think that we have maybe one announcement.
We do. Thank you, Chair. Because my appointment term on the commission ends this month, this meeting is my last commission meeting. And with that, I wanted to say that serving as a commissioner has been a true honor. Importantly, I leave this bench with sincere and deep gratitude for the staff at the commission who wake up every day and perform their duties as public servants and leaders for the benefit of Michiganders across our great state, and for my two exceptional colleagues whose brilliance, compassion, and integrity will continue to serve in the best interests of the people of Michigan. Thank you, Chair Scripps and Commissioner Peretick, for your principled, caring, and heart-centered leadership, colleagueship, and friendship.
Thank you, Commissioner Carrion. When I was thinking about what to say today, I was reminded of how William McAdoo responded, an odd reference, I realize, when asked to describe his tenure as Secretary of the Treasury more than 100 years ago during Woodrow Wilson's presidency. It was a time during which he presided over the creation of the Federal Reserve System, helped prevent an economic crisis after the outbreak of World War I, and in so doing saw a decisive shift in the global balance of economic power from Europe to the United States. They were crowded years, said McAdoo, crowded years. And I think the same could be said for your experience, Commissioner Carrion, serving as commissioner over the last 2 years that may well be remembered as the critical time in overseeing the energy transition in Michigan. And you've been an indispensable part of the progress we've made over that time, including working to negotiate and, at least as importantly, implement the suite of energy laws enacted by the legislature in November 2023, including separate specific dockets on the expansion of energy waste reduction programs, increases in the state's renewable standard, increases in distributed generation programs, a new statewide energy storage target, consideration of climate, environmental justice, and affordability in utility integrated resource plans, the siting of large-scale renewable energy and storage projects, issues affecting the energy landscape in the Upper Peninsula, and 2 proceedings on which we took further action just today. Opportunities to expand public participation and engagement and improvements to utility rate case processes. We also received and took action on the first of its kind independent third-party audit of the distribution systems for consumers, energy, and DTE, laying the groundwork for fewer and shorter outages, fewer customers experiencing multiple outages, and cost-effective strategies to improve distribution reliability. We worked with legislative partners to expand eligibility and funding for the Michigan Energy Assistance Program, helping those people struggling with their utility bills to keep their heads above water. Working together, we approved $21 million in renewable energy and electrification, infrastructure, and economic development grants, supporting 19 projects in all parts of the state, from solar and battery installations in Detroit to the electrification of district heating in Grand Rapids to helping the Keweenaw Bay Indian community install solar and energy storage in the UP. We also saw Michigan recognized by the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy as the top state in the nation for energy utility energy efficiency public benefits and policies, including finding that Michigan utilities achieved higher natural gas efficiency savings than any other state, and that Michigan was second in the nation for energy waste reduction in the electric sector, all while spending less to get more for customers than other leading states. And we also pursued groundbreaking efforts around transportation electrification, many of which you led, including a new regulatory framework for evaluating transportation electrification plans and a first in the country ruling clarifying that the home backup power systems included with the Ford F-150 Lightning EV do not require interconnection authorizations from an electric utility, helping to streamline regulatory requirements as EVs continue to grow both the number and the services they can provide to the grid. So crowded years indeed. And in all of these activities, we have worked, the 3 of us, as a team. And it's clear that the progress that has been achieved over the last 2 years would simply not have been possible or nearly as much fun without you. At the same time, you have quickly emerged as a national leader on a number of issues, including electric vehicles, natural gas planning, and community engagement, including your service on the Task Force on Natural Gas Resource Planning nationally, the Michigan Council on Future Mobility and Electrification, and the World Resource Institute's Electric School Bus Initiative Advisory Council, among a number of others. But what stands out most about your tenure is the commitment that you brought to every discussion, pushing us to be better regulators and never forgetting the public we serve. As the first Detroiter to serve as a commissioner in nearly 4 decades, which is incredible to me, you brought an unmatched authenticity to our work, informing and animating every decision, every deliberation, and every bit of outreach. Everything you touched, you made better, and your positive impact will live on long after your tenure concludes. Commissioner, it has been a joy to work with you. I thank you for all that you have contributed to the commission and to the people of Michigan, and I wish you the very best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Chair.
I've just been incredibly privileged to be able to serve alongside you, Commissioner Carrion, for these past 2 years. You are a true public servant in every aspect of your work. You've been a fearless champion for Michigan Electric, natural gas, and telecommunications customers, and approach every single decision that you make from a lens of fairness and inclusion and protecting our vulnerable citizens. And you have the keenest eye I've seen for following through and tracking metrics to ensure that results actually materialize. Your humble approach to leadership engenders a deep respect from all who meet you, and your principled approach to your work creates consistent and lasting direction. You've taught me a lot personally as well. The way you approach your work, the way you bring all of our staff in, the way you bring public input in, and the way you bring a holistic view of making our energy and telecom services better and more affordable has truly been an inspiration and has really taught me so much and to do the same. I can confidently say that over the last 2 years that you have been able to serve on the Michigan Public Service Commission, that you have improved service quality, reliability, accountability, and affordability for electric, natural gas, and telecom for all Michiganders. I'm honored to be able to sit alongside you at this bench for one final time. Ale, on behalf of all 10 million Michiganders, thank you for your care, your thoughtfulness, your integrity, and for fighting for all of us to be better. You've truly succeeded.
Thank you, Commissioner Peretick. This is what these are for? Never used it.
With that, we'll conclude today's meeting. The next regular commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, August 7th, 2025 at 1:00 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn today's meeting.
I second the motion.
We will now have a vote on the motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries by unanimous vote. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.